success, when it comes to being ready for success, you have to make room for success. You got to make room for it. You can't just be like, oh, I want to be successful, and then you don't have any space in your life for success. As I talked about in the previous segment, I'm setting up my systems to actually do more stuff because my version of success is different. My kids are 9 and almost 12. So they can make breakfast on their own half the time. And they actually don't want me in their face all the time. Starting to get that teenage angst there. So that's different than when I sold my startup 10 years ago and one kid wasn't born yet. He's just in the apple of our eyes. And then the other one had just turned two. A little bit different. So the definition of success is different. Therefore, the room I need to make for success is different. So success might be traveling a little bit more for my work. Couldn't do that. I'm a stay-at-home parent. Couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. And take my kids in diapers on the road. Nah. Did that a couple times. It was lovely. So not only do you need to make room for your success, but that room is going to evolve. It's going to change into different things. Exactly. You want to be ready so you don't have to get ready. And that really begins with right now. The first part of it is to let go what you don't need right now. If you don't need something right now, let it go. I recently went through, as I regularly do, I went through my budget, and I realized it was like probably 5 or 6 things in there, you know. And you see a lot of ads for services that'll do that. Shout out to them. They're fine, but I'll just do it by hand and be like, wait, why am I paying for this and all that? And I'm like, oh, I got that service 2, 3 years ago when I was launching this book. And I was like, yeah, I need that for this book. That book launched 3 years ago. In fact, I might have did a book since then. I don't need it anymore. Oh yeah, that's where I was part of. I joined this newsletter or joined this online group because of this specific thing or because this was what my life was about. Oh crap, my life's not about that anymore. As we talked about in the previous segment, it's similar to your social network, where if you're doing the proverbial janitorial services, but then you really want to be an accountant, then maybe you should stop getting Waste Management Magazine, which really exists. But I don't know if that's the title, but those trades exist. Shout out to the trades. Then maybe you stop getting the $200 a year subscription to it. I'm not just talking financially, but I'm talking about space as far as resources. So how can you make room for that? Again, I'm always putting systems in place so that if I know my North Star is that way, then when I do get that opportunity, when as they say, luck, um, luck is when opportunity meets preparation, I believe. I might be screwing up, but you know where I'm going. Once that locks in, my big thing is timing. So if it's that time, I want to make sure I'm ready. Bags packed, stuff organized, at least 80% there, and then letting it go. And you bring up a really good point. Determine what no longer serves your higher self in your new journey. With appreciation, release it. There you go. And if you look at it like a rocket ship, and my kids are really into rocket ships, that's why I know this. Rocket ships, when they're going to the moon, or perhaps in the future to Mars, or to the International Space Station, or whatever, the floating little apartment that's going around the Earth for the last 15, 20 years. When it goes up, it doesn't take everything with it. It's actually in at least two different parts. So the main part is here, where the people are, or the plants or whatever they're setting up there. And then as it starts to get towards the atmosphere, the rest of it falls off. That's what you're doing. What's the part that's supposed to be falling off? Then I'd say number two is to build up the habits that you're going to need later. What are the habits that you're going to need later? If again you're currently a janitor, then you might need to keep it's a very physical job, so you might need to be very physical and keep your health up. Maybe wear a mask because you're dealing with a lot of chemicals and stuff like that. Like that might be a thing. You might need to take care of your feet more because you're on your feet all day. But then you want to become a CPA and or an accountant. Okay, well then you're going to be sitting most of the time. You might need to understand the law about what needs to be shared and then what counts as client patient privilege because they have laws that are similar to HIPAA, which is for doctors, or to the which I think also falls to HIPAA with like therapists and stuff like that. Like there's certain things that's the patient confidentiality. How does that apply to like I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I hire an accountant. I don't. That's not my thing. Excuse me. But what are those habits, those structures that you actually need to, again, not only embrace success when it gets here, but also to stay successful, right? Um, back to some of the music examples I was given earlier. It's like the folks that are like, "Hey, I got a deal. 10 million seems to be on my mind today. Hey, I'm a rapper. I got a deal for $10 million. I got generational money." Right? Sounds like it. All right, but then you have taxes here in America. That's going to be taking about 45% of that. It's taking a guess. And so you really have, maybe 5 million. Let's say 5 million. Then you have your agent and all these other things. All right. So they might take, agents usually take between 10 and 20%. So then you really have 4 million. And then you have the rest of your family who might be in the hood, who might be having hard times, who are seeing you on TV. And it's like, oh, I want to support them. I want to take care of them. So then you might have a couple million. Then you read the fine details, and there's actually a 7 album deal, which is a lot. And then they might have a contingency in there where they don't want to saturate the market. They don't want people to get sick of you. So you can only release an album, let's say every 18 months, which is pretty aggressive. So every year and a half. So now you have $2 million that's going to last you the next, say, 15 years. And you start to chop that up, you're really making about 300,000 a year, which is fantastic. I'm not trying to shade that. Actually, a lot less than that. Oh my gosh, my math is off today. You're making about 100,000 a year. That's it. 100,000 a year is great. You can live off of that, but that's from a $10 million contract. And so, if you don't know the music business, then you might be like, I'm gonna become the biggest star in the world and sign multi-million-dollar contracts. But then you don't have a lawyer in the wings, not one that you're paying yet, but one in the wings. Like I got a network of lawyers. So when I needed a lawyer, I was able to reach out to them. Some of them were giving me pro bono information. That's because they were in my network already. They were hanging out with me, or I was hanging out with them and taking care of them before I even needed them, because I knew I eventually would. If I want that level of success, lawyers are going to be a part of it. You're talking about these numbers. I'm probably going to need a lawyer eventually. That's the energy that you want to have. What do you need for your success? Start with what you don't need for your success, and then go into what you actually need for your success. Right? I know. That's why I love these stories. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love these stories. Because they're blueprints for all the stuff that we're all going to go through if we're going to be successful entrepreneurs. So that's what I want to arm you with. That's such an important part of the discussion. And we tend to forget that because we're just focused on the goal and not on staying where we're successful. If you're going to get rid of stuff, there's a book to start, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Fantastic book. If you've been a long time watcher, as I say, long time listener, first time caller. If you're one of those folks, you know how I care about this book. It's fantastic. It basically talks about how you can strip your life down to the things that are most important. If you if everything is a priority, then nothing's a priority. That's the bottom line of the book. It shows you how to do it. Can't recommend it more. And so we're talking about money anyway. What to do with a financial windfall when we're dealing with success. Then we're gonna have those moments where we're super broke. Been there. And those times where it's like, oh wow, I'm in a whole different tax bracket. That's part of the vibe. That's part of the roller coaster. Particularly if your goals include money and or doing things that provide a lot of money. You should probably get prepared for it. Definitely check out the episode. It's a classic one from like 2 or 3 years ago. I love having these discussions because I was talking to a friend recently, and they were like, "Hey, thank you for bringing up money," because I was talking about some money stuff that was going on with me. And they're like, "Yeah, I appreciate that because I forget how good it feels to talk to a peer because we're around the same age to talk to a peer about money because at least here in America, it's generally taboo, and it's like, no, this is. But the same thing about money could be said about feeling like a failure. When I sold my startup, part of me felt like I failed because of the expectations that I had. It took me months to work that out. Shout out to the folks that supported me with that. A lot of that stuff I nodded, and then I ended up sharing in the Complete Bring Your Worth collection. Not as a hype to buy the book, but saying that was part of my therapy. There was real therapy. There's actually a therapist, a couple of therapists I did see, and there was my network that supported me. But part of that therapy was also writing about and sharing it with y'all. And so if we talk about these taboo topics, where you want to be successful, but you're not sure what your priorities are, I'd rather you deal with that now than before you get the multi-million dollar contract or you're on the bestseller list or you sell your business, whatever. Do it now. Prepare for that. So, how are you making room for success right now? That might be the most important question of this whole episode. Let me know in the comments. I love to hear. Would love to hear. My entrepreneur coach, Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, slowpreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV, and today we talked about why you might not be ready for success. If you're watching a replay, then let's go ahead and do a link to the Emotional Intelligence Masterclass. So if you're watching the replay, you're going to see, I think it's going to be suggested around my big head somewhere. If you're watching some of the other platforms, all the blinks, not the blinks, all the links are below. Thank you for the comments. Thanks y'all for coming through. I look forward to seeing y'all in whatever success you are and seeing you there for decades to come. Until next time, next Wednesday, remember you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care.